Now that I'm making daily videos again, I think I'm going to take one, maybe two videos every week and discuss other hobbies, interests, passions that I have that I feel like are worth talking about. And today we're going to be kicking that off by talking about the most underrated video games of all time. These are games that will provide you with a dynamic, exciting experience that you can sink hundreds, if not thousands of hours into without ever getting bored. I mean, we're talking strategy games that have levels of complexity and depth that will blow Crusader Kings or Total War out of the water. I am, of course, talking about sports games. So sports video games are kind of the middle stepchild of the video gaming world where they never get appreciation or attention. Most of the people who care very passionately about video games to demand high standards and recognize exciting stuff are typically a little bit more nerdy. They don't really care about sports, and certainly not to the level that they're going to go out and buy a sports video game. The jockey sports fans who do play these games are typically just a little bit more casual about it. Like, they might complain about various glitches or problems about the game, but at the end of the day, that's never going to stop them from buying every new iteration year in and year out. Now, this is particularly sad because, like I said, these games can provide you with these huge, exciting, dynamic experiences, and I say that to those of you who don't care about sports. Even if you don't know anything about any sport, these games can still give you a tremendous amount of enjoyment, partially because sports games aren't really about playing the sport. I'm going to show you guys an example of what I mean, but to do so properly, I'm going to have to explain a little bit of gridiron football strategy, so bear with me for a moment. When NFL football, the defensive backs, the guys that are responsible for covering the wide receivers who go out and catch the ball, there's essentially two different ways that they can cover those receivers: man coverage and zone coverage. So in man coverage, each defender has one target that they are responsible for following across the field. Wherever they go, that defender is responsible for following that wide receiver and making sure that they cannot catch the ball. Now, the pros to this strategy are obviously every player is accounted for. When somebody goes out, every individual player out there has at least one defender that's covering them. But the cons to this strategy are oftentimes there might be a wide receiver that's faster than a defensive back is, and they're going to be able to get wide open, and you can potentially have a huge completion down the field. As you can see right here, number 80 is getting pretty open because he's able to shake his defender. The other kind of coverage is zone coverage. In zone coverage, instead of each person following a receiver across the field, each defender is just responsible for a little zone that they have to stay in. The pros to this strategy are it's a lot easier, especially for people that aren't as athletically gifted. All they have to do is sit in their little zone, as you can see the defenders are doing right now, and then if the ball comes near them, they can just swat the ball away. The big weakness to zone coverage is that there are different pockets of the field that will be left wide open, and if a good quarterback can read where the holes in the zone are, or if a good offensive coordinator can make a good play call on saying, we're expecting this kind of zone coverage, they can run routes that are specifically to areas that there isn't a defender that's covering. As you can see, there's a couple of players here that are just getting wide open because there isn't a defender that's responsible for covering that zone of the field. Now, let me show you guys a play that is essentially guaranteed to work, and that is a slant route. I'm going to drop back and throw this ball to AJ Green, and again, keep in mind what we were just talking about. Think about what kind of defense can cover this play. I drop back, he drives across the field, I throw it to him, it's a completion every time. The problem here is if the defense is in zone coverage, all I have to do is wait until my wide receiver eventually runs to an area of the zone where he's wide open, and that will almost always happen on any sort of route coming across the field. If the defense is in man coverage, that's also something that's fairly easy to deal with because eventually the wide receiver will almost always outrun the defender that's covering him, or at the very least, you can kind of control where you throw the ball, and you can throw the ball in front of the wide receiver where he can catch it and the defender's not able to make a play. So what we have here are essentially unbeatable plays. Every single time I'm going up and doing a new play or a new snap, I am the defense is assigned to have a randomly generated play that's different every single time. And even though they're going through different plays, different kinds of, man coverage and zone coverage, I'm always finding somebody that's open because you can't really beat, at least in this iteration of Madden, there isn't really a way to beat these kinds of crossing crossing routes. Every single time, maybe it's not the primary read, but every single time somebody's going to get open, and the only way to stop it is sometimes you'll hold on to the ball for a little bit too long and get sacked. But other than that, there is nothing that you can do to beat these kinds of plays. Every single time. Look at that. Somebody's open. So what's the significance of all this? Well, this is a completely unrealistic and broken experience. Football teams don't just run the exact same play every single game. I mean, you don't see nothing but crossing routes in the NFL. But this is how Madden is played. If you go and watch any esport event that includes a Madden tournament and you see the best Madden players in the world, a large portion of their games consist of them just running the exact same play over and over and over again, consistently picking up yards, moving the ball down the field, and scoring. And virtually every sports game has a variation of this issue. In basketball games, it might be half-court three-point shots, which are completely unrealistic. In FIFA, crossing was a huge problem for a while. Oh my word, that was really awful. There was a period of time where I think it was like FIFA 13, FIFA 14, and FIFA 15, where just running the ball down the wing and then crossing it into the box was incredibly overpowered. For some reason, the game just gave this aura of invincibility to any offensive player that's going up for a header, and so a large portion of FIFA just consisted of people running the ball down the wing, crossing into the box, and scoring over and over and over again. If the gameplay itself is completely broken and unrealistic, then why is it that I'm praising sports games? Why did I title this video what I did, saying that sports games are such a fantastic, incredible thing? Well, simply put, the reason is that most sports games give you an incredibly enjoyable experience outside of the gameplay. Virtually all the sports games out there have some sort of other modes, other game modes that you can play through, be it Road to Glories, My Career, or most often franchise modes where the gameplay comes secondary. Probably the most popular and most enjoyable of those is the franchise mode. For those of you unaware, a franchise mode in a sports game is where instead of taking control of the teams or a specific player, you take control of the owner, the coach, or the manager, and you're responsible for all the non-gameplay things going on in your organization. You typically have the option to play through the games if you want to still, but you also have the option, and what most people do, is sim either parts or sometimes entire seasons, where you just leave it up to a simulation computer that will take the team that you've constructed and see just randomly how they end up doing. This might sound odd or boring, not being able to play the game yourself, but it actually gives you one of the most exciting, intense experiences and one of the biggest challenges you'll find in video games. Possibly the best example of this is Football Manager, which I might actually make a separate video on. Football Manager is an association football simulation game where there is no option for you to play soccer/football at all. You don't have any opportunities to do so in game. What you're responsible for is becoming the general manager of a club, team, or country, or sometimes both. You'll design the strategies that you run, you'll scout and sign new players, you'll negotiate contracts, you'll set training schedules, you can give pep talks before and during the games, and you can make mid-match adjustments, substitute players, and do everything in your power to set your team up for success. But at the end of the day, after you build your team, all you can do is watch and see whether or not they win or lose. Not allowing you to just auto-win by breaking the game anytime you face any amount of adversity makes this a real challenge. And again, it's one of the most fun challenges that you'll find in a video game. Most games will allow you to go at least 60 years of in-game time where you can build clubs up to greatness, and then you can go and join another team in a coaching carousel after you've left a legacy at your previous club. A personal favorite thing to do of mine is go online and see the documentation that a lot of people will leave behind. A lot of players will go out and play through a full 60-year career and then document it, putting it up on Google Docs or onto an Excel spreadsheet and sharing it, showing where they coached, when they left, what accomplishments they were able to have at different schools or different areas, when their players won the Heisman, when they were able to win a national championship, and when they ended up failing and getting fired before moving on to their next job. NCAA 14 might be one of the best games at giving this kind of great experience, particularly because there's nothing unrealistic about it. Like in the Madden franchise mode, there are some really broken trades that you can make that are fairly unrealistic and will give you an unfair edge. If I really want to, I can get some players that are insanely good while giving up very little value myself. But in NCAA, I mean, it's just like real life. There are no trades that you can make. You can't sign new players. All there is recruiting, and it gives you you a very realistic experience where, you know, if you're UTEP, you're not going to be able to sign the #1 recruit in the nation no matter what you do. Now, obviously, sports games are a little bit more fun if you are at least slightly familiar with the rules and everything of the sport itself, but that doesn't have to be the case. These are really strategy games when it comes down to it. And it's like any other strategy game where, you know, going into it, even if you don't understand or don't know the differences between, you know, association football formations or different American football plays, you will learn them as you play the game. Most games will either be able to teach you them. I mean, in Madden, it has a pretty in-depth trainer that allows you to learn the different types of coverages, the different types of plays, and what's designed to beat what. And part of the fun of all these is just learning the strategy itself and then figuring it out on your own. And it's almost more fun too, because I'm never going to be able to take the things I learned through playing Total War, because I'm never going to be able to be a military commander, but I can take the things I learn in Madden and then, you know, apply them to my viewing experience when watching NFL on Sundays. And this is something I would especially recommend because it's one of the best ways to expose yourself to things that you might not be super familiar with. Like, I'm obviously American, and like most Americans, the only experience I had with association football or soccer, by the time I was 14 at least, was like, you know, I played soccer from the age of 4 to 8, but that was it. I knew very little about the details and the strategies of the game, and very little about the game in general when I first got Football Manager, but then that game was able to teach me quite a lot and give me a much bigger appreciation for the sport as a whole. And I guess it's worth mentioning, me knowing virtually nothing about soccer when I first started playing didn't do anything to prevent me from getting completely addicted to it for the next 8 months. These games really can provide you with some of the most intense and exciting strategy that you will experience in video games, to the point that I would say they're worth keeping an old PS2 or PS3 hooked up to your TV so you can go back and play through NCAA 14. And like I said, even if you're someone that's not familiar with the sport, that really won't prevent you from being able to enjoy these games, at least if you come in with an open mind and everything. These really are one of the best tools that you can use to expand your horizons and learn more about different cultures as a whole. I mean, if you're American, one of the best ways to learn about the football fanaticism of Europe and South America are through playing Football Manager and to a lesser extent FIFA. And if you're from outside the US, Madden and NCAA 14 are fantastic tools to teach you about what it is that so many Americans find so exciting and fun about football, American football at least. And of course, to a lesser extent, if you play any of the MLB games, NBA games, those are great too. I don't know, I just love sports, man. I love sports so much, and I love talking about them. And I might make a few more videos on sports or sports games in the future. Maybe leave a comment down below if you're interested in that. But anyway, I hope you all enjoyed watching this video. I sure as hell had a lot of fun making it. And I will see you all tomorrow in the next one. But until then, thank you very much for watching. Good luck in solo queue, and have a wonderful day.